Hello! Welcome back to another Tech Ambrosia Saturday stream. This is going to be the last one for a couple of weeks while I get all of this stuff behind me, packed up and moved. Yeah, as you can tell, that's going very well, considering I don't think this backdrop has changed for the last 4 weeks. We're talking test benches today. If you don't know, I've been working on basically a 3D printable test bench project since about 2021, I think is when I started it. My first versions of these were very rough. These are all built in Tinkercad because I didn't know anything else at the time, and my early versions were very rough Tinkercad models. These are a little bit more friendly, they're a little nicer to use, they're a little better made, and they use a little less material, they're easier to print. But I've got a couple of interesting things going on with these, and I wanted to make an announcement. Links to these printable models will appear once the stream is over. My life is a mess right now. I have not even uploaded the new models, these guys, to Printables yet. That'll happen after the stream, and then I'll update the description of this video with a link to the Printables page. You can probably go find them right now. They'll only have these models, the older models, for now until I upload the new ones and update the description, so apologies for that. We've got folks in the chat. Who have we got here? We've got Joe from Joe's Computer Museum. Hello, Joe. We've got Trina. Trina's Technobabble. Hello. We've got Whatsack. Hello. Yes, exactly. The Mac Plus went away, and then I didn't move anything else out of this room. It's kind of a lie. One of the shelves back there is empty. I've got all of my video cards from that shelf into boxes. But it's not enough. Not enough at all. Starbuck Tech is here. Hello. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you. And Tiny Toy Dragon is here as well on Twitch. And just a reminder, I do simulcast on YouTube and Twitch, the red and purple streaming platforms. So feel free to watch me on your platform of choice. If you are on Twitch, please give me a follow. I'm trying to get my follower count up because Twitch, of course, I'm playing the game on Twitch, right? Because they gatekeep all of their stuff through follower accounts and things. So definitely, please give me a like and a follow over there, if you can or you want to. I appreciate it. Tiny Toy Dragon just updated the tags and title. Thank you. I completely forgot to do that. My life is a mess right now. Anyway, what are these? These allow you to take a power supply. Yeah, power supply. Put it in the test bench and secure it using whatever screws you have for the power supply, and then mount a motherboard on the other side. Let me take my call to actions away here. There we go. You mount a motherboard to the other side. These use this particular one is an ATX test bench, so it uses the 4 shared screws that are used by mini ITX, micro ATX, and full-size ATX. You mount a motherboard to this side, mount a power supply to the other side, and you have a test bench. You can use it in either vertical orientation with the motherboard sticking out the top, or in horizontal orientation with the motherboard sticking out to the side. The cool thing that so these are up on Printables. You can go get these right now. The cool thing that I'm launching today is my ultra compact version, and these little guys are a redesign of the one I just showed you. Let me get this accessory off of here. These use the power supply. Oh, this is a terrible color to put on camera. Let me use this one instead. There we go. These little guys use the power supply as a stressed member, and because of that, you don't need to use nearly as much material. Put this on the correct way. So this slides over these 2 screws on the power supply, and again, you mount your motherboard on top. The power supply fan is in here. It'll cool the back side of the motherboard, and there you have it. Again, you can use it in horizontal mode or in vertical mode. The power supply helps counterbalance whatever you put on the motherboard. I think it's a pretty slick design. I've got a ton of accessories that go with this thing as well. Again, links will be up on the on the video page once I'm done with the stream, because I still have to upload these to Printables, sorry. But the cool part about these in particular, there's a couple of them. One is this, right, where if you have one power supply and a bunch of just different systems you've built up in a test bench, you can just pop them off by unscrewing these screws on the power supply, right, and then slide your new one on. And it's impossible to do this without looking at it. But that makes like rapid changing of test benches very simple with just a single power supply. Very helpful if you've got, like, I don't know, if you're doing software dev and you're trying to test it across a range of hardware, or if you're doing hardware dev and you're testing across a range of hardware. Very helpful to have a bunch of systems ready to go, slap them onto a power supply and just do your thing, right? It's super great. One of the things I'm super proud of with this design is that it uses about a third of the material of the, this is actually the mini version of the original. This prints on a 180mm printer, like a Bamboo Lab A1 Mini, or a Prusa Mini, or a Kingroon KP3S, I think. Believe it or not, this will print on a 180mm print bed. It maxes out that print bed, but it'll print on a 180mm print bed. The advantage to this one is if you're making a permanent system, like you just want to make one system, you can stick a big fat power supply in here, mount it in permanently, mount in your motherboard permanently, and the larger versions include these little pocket screw holes in the bottom that let you mount this upside down under a desk. And in fact, I've got a system mounted underneath this desk right now. It's not this system that you're looking at. This is my $100 Optiplex that I'm using for streaming. But you know, I've got it's like a 5600X 3D with a what is in there, like a 1080, a GTX 1080 in there for doing VR stuff. So that's mounted upside down, screwed in with the little pocket hole screws on the underside of the desk. Works pretty well. That's the advantage to these, is if you want to build a permanent system, they're much more, you know, structurally sound. There's a lot more to them. And this is printed with like defaults and Orca Slicer on, I think, my A1 Mini before I give it away. Prints nicely, like the print quality is great, but it's not super robust. You can change your print settings to add more walls or put in more infill to make it stronger if you want. If you're going to use like really heavy components. However, if you're doing temporary builds, these things are so nice. They print in a completely different orientation. They print this direction. So the bottom of the print is here and it builds up from the bottom. Because of that, well, let's start from the beginning. Okay, so these take about a third of the material. They take less than half of the print time of the other ones, which is great immediately, right? Like you can get 3 times as many out of a spool as the other one. Again, useful if you have a bunch of systems that you need to build and move from power supply to power supply. They have accessory rails on them. You may have noticed. We've got. I'll explain this little divot in a minute. Excuse me. made the mistake of eating some popcorn right before stream. It's a bad idea. I'll explain this little triangular divot in a minute. But these French cleats on the back are identical across the large and small versions. They let you attach accessories. For example, this is a down-firing 120mm fan holder. Useful if you have, say, a slot 1 machine that has, one of those slot 1 processors that's got a heatsink and no fan on it. Now you can cool your slot 1 processor because this sits right over the processor slot. Or if you have, a GPU that is big and power hungry, just move it up a bit to where the GPU would slot in right here, and now you've got cooling for your GPU, for your vintage GPU. Accessories. Another one that I was pretty proud of. I use this if I'm testing a server board that expects linear airflow from the front of the case to the back of the case. So this would be the back of the case in the case of the test bench, and then this would be the front. So you can use one of these. That also looks nuclear on my camera. That's awesome. You can see we've got the little cleats in there. They just connect up this way. And now this draws air out of the VRM area and up through these little channels. It's just two 80mm fans. Of course, if you're doing like a mini ITX, a passively cooled mini ITX system, you can just reverse the mounting of these fans. They'll blow down onto the motherboard. That's of course perfectly possible. All of this stuff that I'm releasing today, you can print without supports. That's like the main design goal for this. Like I wanted to print this quickly. I want to print these things quickly so I could build machines from them quickly. And I didn't want to waste any filament on supports. Filament and time, because it takes time for the printer to go through and like put supports in here. You don't need them. I've designed the angles of incidence here. You can see that we've got like this kind of like knife edge here that makes it really easy for the printer to bridge across here. Despite this being like, you know, a 100mm bridge, most printers do this just fine. This is of course a Bamboo Lab, but I've done this on, sorry, this is the bridge. You can see the couple of wisps here, but like this is, you know, this has been successful on my Ender 3 when I had that. That was what I designed these to print on, in fact, was the Ender 3. So, like, come on, if an Ender 3 can do it, you know, your fancy high-speed printer can do it too. You wouldn't believe the number of people I get who try these things, and they're like, oh no, these need supports. These absolutely need supports. I'm like, no, they don't. They super don't. You can see they do end up a little bit wispy. Just a little bit. But like that's not going to impede the function like you saw. You stick the power supply in there. Nobody cares. It's gonna just draw air through it. You'll never even see it. Motherboard will be on top. Oh yeah, so this is what I'm releasing. There's a couple of things. God, there's so much. There's so much to go over. I've made a few versions of these mini ones, these ultra compact, because you know I designed these to solve my own problems, and then released them in case people wanted them, and it turned out a bunch of people did. So here they are. This is the server version, and this is also demonstrating if you print this with a brim, you don't really need to. I hope your printer adhesion is okay, but I usually just print these with mouse ears in the slicer instead of a brim. Brim can be kind of annoying. There's some fitment issues that the brim introduces. Let me show you. I'll go back to that divot that we looked at, the triangular divot. This one didn't print super well. This one did. So, by default, when you print one of these little mini ones, these ultra compacts, there's going to be a little, I don't know if you can even see it, it's a little cookie in there. And that cookie you clip out with your cutters that you should have with your 3D printer. If you don't, go get some. They're really good. These are just model snips. You clip out this little cookie, and then what it lets you do is when you put this down for storage, like when you're done using this, you can now slide these things together because these points slide under that divot. You can slide them together and they take up less room. Ask me why I designed that. Probably because I have dozens of these. That's all that is. That's all that little divot is. It's just for storing these things on a shelf more efficiently. They already are way more efficient to store than the full-size ones, as you can see. They take up a ton less room. They're just physically smaller, you know? Oh, what else to say about these? They should be printable. They should be printable on basically any 3D printer that can complete a print and has enough print volume that you can print up to 180mm tall, which is the height of these ultra compacts. The weird shape of the full-size ones is because I did have somebody ask while I was designing these a couple of years ago if they could print, if I could make a version that they could print on their Delta printer. If you've never seen a Delta printer, it's got a circular build plate, and it's got, you know, big long arms that stick down and then move the tool head around on the circular build plate. They're pretty cool. The key, though, is that they have circular build plates instead of square build plates. So I cut off some of the corners, you can see here and on here, to try and get it to center into a circular build area a little more easily. That ended up, you know, that it saved material, and it ended up making the whole print stronger, more rigid, which was interesting. I wasn't expecting that. So this is just, you know, there isn't a Delta version. It's just, this is the version. It's also, it just happens to be Delta printer compatible. I don't know how many people these days have Delta printers anymore, but I thought it was a fun addition. Oh man, what else? Oh, Jack68K is here. Hello, welcome to the stream. Welcome. Damo says those are super cool. I think they are. They solve a problem that I have. Hopefully they solve one for you too. A lot of these were really fun technical issues to solve. Like this one for the dual 80mm fans. Like this is what it looks like without fans installed in it, right? This I actually printed last night to make sure it still prints correctly, because I've only done one of them because I just needed the one for the server board I was using. So this ends up printing this direction. So it sits on the build plate this way, because there's a couple of bridges in here that need to print, but I don't want to put supports in there, because like trying to dig supports out of that's just gonna be a pain in the butt, right? So it prints upside down, and then when you use it, you flip it over. I thought that was kind of cool. What else? Oh yeah, so probably the most, like I said, I've had these things out here for like 3 or 4 years at this point. The most popular version, I would say, is the Baby AT version, which is... Oh, I know I have one around here. Let me go grab it. I thought I had gotten it ready. So here's the ultra compact version of the Baby AT test bench. What was going on with this one? Don't remember. It's very goopy. I was testing print settings with this one. It doesn't feel normal. This one though. Make sure this isn't an old version. It's not. Okay. I think this is printed on my Soval. My Soval, my SVO8, does horrible things to the bridges up top. Let's see if y'all can see that. It makes really ugly bridges. I don't know why. I have tried a bunch of different settings to get it to not make ugly bridges, but it does. They're functional, they just look gross. But this is the Baby AT version. So you can see the hole spacing here for the motherboards is different, because Baby AT was kind of a little bit of a Wild West show back in the day. But this will fit, gosh, all kinds of older boards. 386s, 486s, early Pentiums. I've got a Super Socket 7 board, actually. I think that's Baby AT. Let me go grab it. I'll show you. So, Baby AT goes in like so. You can see the motherboard mounting holes. Not all of them are present on every Baby AT board. This one has very few of them, in fact. It's only got the front 2 that are present on the board, because there's stuff in the way of all the rest of them. But yeah, that's That's a baby AT board on the AT test bench. And you can see the AGP slot. It's a little bit off, right? Like it's not quite where it should be for the graphics card support. That's another print that I've got for these. Here's one. These little guys just sit on here, and they just extend that slot out. These just print this direction, no supports again. They just slide on like that, and you can just put your primary graphics card on there. Gosh, what else? There's so much to go over with these things. I am so unprepared. I'm so sorry. I have a bunch of different versions of the prints, especially the large ones, because not every, especially with ATX motherboards, not every motherboard manufacturer puts the primary graphics card slot in the same place. Some of them put them right at slot 1, and then one of these, where this motherboard, where this graphics card support is right here, will work fine. You put the motherboard in, you can stick your graphics card on there, it'll just rest on the end of the arm, no problem. Other boards like to move that primary graphics card slot over one, so that there's more room in the CPU area for big RAM sticks, big coolers, lots of VRMs and stuff. Or so I've seen some that go all the way out to like slot number 3 for the primary graphics card slot, and that's what these little guys are for. And they slot onto any of these. They all use the same size. Easy to do. Now, when I originally released these, I was anticipating just using regular old case screws. These, an old bag of them, right? These are just I forget what these are, 3/8, 3/16, something like that, 3/16, I think. They're not metric. They're like the coarse thread case screws that you use for like screwing a power supply into a case. So you put your motherboard on top of this, and you use those screws to screw into the test bench. And of course, I've had a couple of people ask, hey, I'm worried about these wearing out if I, put in and remove a motherboard several times. So I have designed, part of the launch today is I have designed versions of these that use heat set inserts, specifically M3 heat set inserts, because those are CD-ROM drive screws. If you're familiar with putting a computer together, there's these little tiny fine thread screws you use for like screwing in a CD-ROM drive or a floppy drive or a hard drive into a case. I think they might be used for motherboards nowadays, like your motherboard standoffs use these screws. Those are just M3 apparently. And where did I put my example? I don't have my example. I don't have my example of my M3 screw. You know what they look like though, right? Like if you put together a computer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's the two screws, right? There's the two screw types that you use when you put together a PC. There's the coarse threaded ones, and then there's the fine threaded ones. The heat set insert version uses the fine threaded M3 screws. Now, you can print these, obviously, once I put the links up after the stream. But also, the number 2 question that I get from people when they see these, next to do you have a heat set insert version, is I don't have a 3D printer, how do I get these? And that I am finally happy to say there's a solution. And the solution comes from Joe, who's in the chat right now. Joe's Computer Museum has very kindly agreed to host these for purchase. So he'll print them out. Hello, Joe. Yes, say hello in the chat. Joe's a great human being. And he has graciously offered to put these up on his store for what I think are pretty good prices, honestly. And he takes care of the printing. He will ship it to you. You just, put the things you want in your cart and pay the man. And it's done. And he's way better at that than I am. If you remember, way back when I launched these test benches, I did a giveaway, right? We just did a little giveaway because I had too many of these things sitting around. I'm like, I should send these out to people. And just me getting these things packed up and shipped out, it doesn't work with my brain. It just doesn't work with my brain. I'm not compatible with capitalism. So I'm really happy that Joe has decided to help me out with this and offer these for sale to the community if you don't want to 3D print these or you don't have a 3D printer, but you want one. Joe's got all the sizes on his store right now, and you can just pick one up if you want. It's pretty great. Thank you, Joe. Everybody say thanks, Joe, in the chat. Joe's a lifesaver. Joe is the reason that the retro computing community is moving around. He's the reason that this community actually functions. Go buy a blue SCSI while you're at it. So as far as printing these things, you'll see this once you get the models in your hands, but I've got several of these have printing aids, some built-in supports that your printer will just print and then you can just peel right off when you're done. That includes where is it on this one? Did I put it on this one? I don't think I put it on this one. The little cookie for this little guy. Again, your printer will just print it. You can clip it off if you want to use it. You can leave it on there. It doesn't hurt anything. Also these, God, this is the worst color to put on screen. We see these dovetails at the top here. These, obviously don't print quite correctly in this orientation, so I have some built-in, one layer supports that go in there. You can just, like you saw, you can just pop them out once you're done. And these are for mounting things to the top of the test bench. This is a blank that you can use to modify it, and it just clips into the top like that. You just pull these STLs into Thingiverse, into Tinkercad or Fusion or Onshape, whatever you want to use, and then design your own whatevers for your test benches. And of course, you can print or buy the accessories that go on to the other positions on the test benches. I've got blanks. I will have blanks in the downloads for all 3 positions. This one doesn't have all 3. This has the rear French cleats, which work in vertical and horizontal orientations, obviously. Gravity, it's a nice thing. It also has the top. God, you really can't see it on camera. Enough of the red one. It's also got the top dovetails, which again, those just clip in. I don't have anything I've designed for the top dovetails, but you can see this blank. You just print it out or throw it into your CAD of choice and make whatever you want with it. What else? Oh yeah, the third mounting position is on the larger models. I've got some weird looking clips that run up the front of it. These are this weird because I wanted them to somehow work when it's in horizontal orientation, although they don't super work in horizontal. But also to be printable. If you want to print these, they've got to be a particular geometry if you want your printer to actually print them successfully. The other thing is, I did experiment for a while with making this model printable this direction. Some of them, yeah, this one doesn't anymore, but I used to have little grommets on the bottom of these to let you print this in this orientation if you wanted to. I have a couple of old ones where I tested that with this. So of course you'd need to be able to print these in this orientation as well, which most printers can almost do this correctly. I mostly just said that, nah, not a big deal. So I don't have any accessories that go on the front rails. I had a couple at one point. They're mostly bad. I've seen a few folks who have taken these and designed their own, which is exactly what you're supposed to do with these. And like they put like SSD mounts here. I've seen somebody who took this into Tinkercad or whatever and like cut a section out of here and put in a 2.5-inch SSD. Like you could do that too. Absolutely. Oh, what else? I've got some big stuff that goes along with these because I'm using one of these. Actually, I'm using one of these, like this literal one. It's why I designed it as my home NAS underneath this desk right over there. Because you know it's designed. I should talk about this one actually. So let me get the brim off of this thing. See if it'll come off nicely. I printed this like 6 months ago. Maybe a year ago. I've left the brim on here just so I could do this for the reveal of these. I don't recommend printing these with a brim. They shouldn't need it. Mouse ears in modern slicers is usually good enough. But yeah, you can see now I've got a spot in here where I'm gonna have to dig that out, that piece of brim out of there if I want to get a power supply in there. So what's different about this? This is the server version of the Ultra Compact. If you look at, let me pop the thumbnail up real quick. You can see all the variations of this thing. That literally, that's all the variations. They're just arranged in Tinkercad. That's all the ones that I built. All the ones that are light colored are the heat set insert versions. All the darker colored ones are the normal screw into plastic versions. So what makes this server version different from, say, I'm not going to use the red one, from this one, right? So we've got ATX, right? Just a regular old ATX test bench. What makes the server version different? Like, first of all, you can see there's no handle on it, right? The server version doesn't have this hand grab where you can pick it up. And that's, again, by design. This is meant to just, you put a system together in this and you leave it there. But also, if we look at the back, you can see this little bump here where the power supply mounts in. Let me show you. Maybe you don't know because you haven't been using these for the last year. You're not familiar with them, right? So you have your power supply. Let's say it's sitting on your desk. You put one of these test benches on it, like so. That leaves kind of a lot of space over here for your primary graphics card. If you have a large primary graphics card, it gets a little weird. Again, these are meant for temporary use, right? You put a system in here, you do your testing with it with the test bench, and you take it off and you put it on a shelf or something. The server version is not meant for temporary use. The server version is meant to sit in one place for a long time. And you can see, yeah, this is going to come back and bite me here. The server version shifts the power supply over so that now your primary graphics card is much better supported. So you can put larger graphics cards, say if you're doing LLM work, or or you're doing transcoding, or you're doing building a cloud gaming system, right? Your own personal cloud gaming system. You have a big, powerful graphics card on here. This will support it better. This is my entire design decision for that. So again, this one meant to sit horizontally. It doesn't really like being put vertical. This is the server version. That makes sense, I think. I also, since you don't have a lot of room over here, I went without the top cleats, just the rear French cleats. There's no top dovetails on this one. That's brim is a bad idea. What else? What else? And like I said, this one I'm running right now. It's been running for about a year. Just being a home file server. Little bits of 3D printing to try this on it. I like this one. It's a cool design. Very simple. Not a lot to it. Again, it prints in this orientation. So this is the bridge point way up here. You can see it does a pretty okay job with it. Couple of strands, otherwise not a big deal. Again, no supports. It's the whole idea. Don't use a ton of filaments. So these little ones, these ultra compact versions, use up about 100 grams. On a modern printer, that's usually around 85. So something like a Bamboo Lab or a K2 or a K1, or like my Sovol, my SVO8, they use about 80, 85, 90 grams of filaments. On something older that maybe has a little bit less of a control on its filament usage, uses up to 100 grams on these, which is not bad. You get about 10 test benches out of a roll of filament. It's pretty good. The big ones, pretty much universally, again, this is the mini size of the big ones. Even the full size use a similar amount of filaments. These use about 300 grams of filament each. And again, it's because there's just more to it. It's more substantial. There's less wiggle. There's less flex. It's meant to be used as a permanent installation. And I used this one. Well, not this exact one, but I used one of these, and I used a mini or an ultra compact test bench as my primary computer case for my VR PC when it was over here. And that was like I had a 3080 in it first, then a 3090 with a 5800X 3D, all air cooled. No problems with these. Not a problem at all. Part of that is the design. Your power supply goes in here, pulls air through the bottom, and it keeps the rest of the plastic cool, along with keeping the backside of the motherboard cool. I think it's a pretty slick design. I think a lot of people don't quite understand it, but it works really nicely. So that is the official launch. It's been a half an hour. It took me a half an hour to launch the test benches. What else? What else do I have to show you? I've got a couple of systems that are still in test benches. I haven't quite gotten into boxes, so I can show those. Oh, Gutbomb asks, I'm sorry if you also, hello Gutbomb, welcome to the stream. Gutbomb asks, I'm sorry if you answered already, what is the recommended infill for these? These are all printed with the defaults in OrcaSlicer. You don't really need much of anything. Again, especially with these little ones, the power supply is a stressed member, so it provides most of the structural support, and then the motherboard itself provides a lot of the structural support. Really, the only part that's doing any real work is this vertical column here, and it's way less dependent on your infill amount, because this is pretty thin, right? Like it's a pretty thin support. It's way more dependent on number of walls that you're using when you print than infill. And this is just printed with 2 walls, the default. You can print them with 3, and they get they're a little more substantial. But again, this is like you're going to be using it in this orientation, and that's a compressive load on the plastic. It doesn't really matter. It's fine with it. Two walls and like 10% infill is fine. I think I go as low as 8 on these, and it works out just fine. Yeah, no biggie. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I've printed mine with 15% and not had any trouble. Yeah, exactly. Like I've said, I've gone as low as 8, and it's been perfectly fine. The most that I've found when printing these with low amounts of infill, I don't know if I have an example of it here, is occasionally you'll get so much of a gap. You get so much of a gap while it's printing one of these features between, like, you'll have some infill here, and then there'll be nothing, and then there'll be some infill here, and there'll be so much of a vertical gap that it'll like the nozzle will catch on something, or it'll cool weirdly and curl up, and then the nozzle will strike against that. I usually just print these with a little Z-hop, and it works fine. That's literally the biggest problem I've had with printing these with low amounts of infill, is that it's not enough infill to print them. No issues with the structural stability of them. It's been printing issues always for me. But yeah, these are nice. I like these because they're I did. This is a weird thing, but if you're into like the tactility of something, I put a fun contour on this handle. So when this is all assembled, right? This is this direction. You've got a big power supply here, like thus. Big power supply right here, right? And it butts up perfectly against this handhold, so you can grab it and use it as a handle. I put a fun contour on this one, and when you print it, I put a fun contour on this handle. When you print it vertically, it's super smooth. It's really satisfying to touch. I don't know why. That's like the thing I'm proudest about, is that this handle feels really good in the vertically printed ultra compact versions. It's very nice. It's very pleasant to use. Tell me you're autistic without telling me you're autistic. Oh yeah, no, definitely. Joe says I broke one once because I lifted it by the little tiniest piece. Yeah, no, definitely use the handle. And if you're worried, like if you're planning on putting like a big system in one of these, print it with more walls. Especially these ultra compacts, the walls, go around each layer, so that immediately thickens up this handle area and makes it stronger. It's certainly not impossible to break these things. Like, they're not perfect. This is just regular PLA. And if I wail on it, like, it will break. And it just shears right across the layer lines. You can't see that at all because this camera is weird. But yeah, it just shears right across the layer lines. But again, that takes a lot. It takes a lot of force to do that. But if you're worried about it, just put more than 2 walls in it. Put 3 or 4 walls in, and you'll be fine. Absolutely fine. Joe says super glue. Yeah, you could probably fix this with super glue. I've got a couple more. Let me go grab some systems that are in test benches already and show you how some of this stuff works. Because it's more than test bench, it's a system. So here's a couple of examples that have appeared on the stream recently. This is the Socket 754 system from, I think last week when we looked at cheap retro PCs. And this is just in, the ATX test bench. No biggie. And then this is this is my FX system. I think it's currently got this is when we were investigating that weird FX processor with 4 modules and 4 threads. I've run all the way up to like an 8120 in this, no problem. But again, it's just in the normal ultra compact ATX version. And you can see what I mean about that primary graphics card slot, right? So there's slot 1. It's an X1 slot. Let's see if I have a PCI X1 card here. Thought I did. A USB card around here somewhere. I thought I had it handy. I don't. But that ends up slotting right in with this support. So if you want to put a graphics card in this, you'll want one of these little guys. Goes right in there. And now you've got a support for the primary graphics card slot. But yeah, these are I've been using just the absolute snot out of these. Oh, this one's a weird one. Oh man, this one's great. You want to see an older version? This, I don't know if you can see the layer lines on this, but this was printed in this direction. And if I look at the bottom is smooth, which means this was printed on my Ender 3 on the glass bed. So yeah, I was testing whether you could print these both orientations. Works fine, clearly. Get a little weirdness around the power supply connectors, but otherwise works fine. Prints out the French cleats just fine. Prints out the top dovetails fine too. So that should still fit. The dovetail blank. This is from ages ago. I have not had my Ender 3 for about a year. But you can see that goes right on there, no problem. I'm pretty proud of the top dovetails, even though I never used them for anything. They came out really nice. They print out really well. And the rear French cleats also work just fine. And this I printed literally yesterday on my Soval, and this is from over a year ago, printed on my Ender 3, and they made up just fine. I'm kind of proud of this design. I think it works really nicely. Oh, stay. It's got a big cooler on it. It doesn't like to stay upright. But I'll show you what that looks like. Oh, my chair is falling down. There we go. Garbage chair. Let's switch over to the desk cam. We can take a closer look at these things. Rhett is here. Hello, Rhett. Welcome to the stream. Don't forget weirdo ultra sharp plastic gouging fan screws. That's true. I do design for those as well. In like this fan holder. I actually don't you don't have to screw into the plastic, into the 3D printed plastic. You screw into the fan itself. So the 3D print ends up being sandwiched between the screw and the fan. That way you can print out something that's very thin, easy to print, doesn't use a lot of material, but it's still pretty darn strong. In this one's case, I'm doing the same thing in here. Yet no, I'm not doing the same thing here. These do screw into the 3D printed plastic, but I've left mostly enough plastic. This is an old version of this print. I found an issue right here with this print. That's pretty mean, because this is the print bed area right here. This would be sitting down on the print bed. So your printer has to be able to print this tiny little triangle and not have it come off the bed. Good luck. I fixed that in a revision version. That's going to be, I'll put the revision up on the printables when I put these up. But yeah, I fixed that, filled it in, a little thicker. Doesn't have quite as many problems. But yeah, so I go both directions with these. Generally, you want to try and screw into the injection molded plastic and not the 3D printed plastic, but it works. It's not a big deal. You can see, get this to focus in. Come on. There you go. I usually just store built systems in these test benches so that I can just plop them onto a power supply and use them. This is about the limit of what you want to use the ultra compact test bench for to store, which is this is a Vetru V3 cooler. It's about the most weight you want to put on one of these. But for smaller boards, it's not a big deal. This one without a cooler installed just sits upright. You don't even have to put it on the I/O shield. Oh yeah, I/O shields. Everybody always asks, does it fit an I/O shield? Can I put an I/O shield in the test bench? No. That is because, if you can see here, there is just not enough room between the end of the I/O area on the board. Like, this is the designated ATX I/O area for a motherboard. There's just not enough room between the end of that and your primary expansion slot for me to make this out of plastic. It's got to be made out of metal or it won't be strong enough, especially if it's printing, this way, sure, but like you'd have no support for this arm. This would be like hair thin, maybe a couple of layers, if you wanted to put an I/O shield in this. Which, of course, being 2 layers thin on 3D printed plastic means as soon as you go to snap in the I/O shield, everything would break. So no, these don't fit I/O shields. However, they do fit more modern motherboards that have built-in I/O shields, because those will end up just butting right up against the end of this, right up against the back, and then you can just access all the ports through the back of the print. So, I/O shields. Mostly, I don't love them. I know they make it look a little bit cleaner, but like it's the worst metal in the world. You're guaranteed to cut yourself on it. I8386SX is here and says back in my day we had something called metal. Yeah, exactly. Joe says also the machine is open. It's an open test bench. The I/O shield isn't doing anything. Yeah, technically the I/O shield should be there to provide a little additional grounding for like plugging in random ports, plugging in random things, but also to like block airflow out the back of the uncontrolled airflow out the back of the machine. You put it on a test bench, it doesn't matter. It's open to the air in all directions. Having an I/O shield is not a thing. Not a thing. So what else? Chris Jackson says Hulk angry. Lupercalis, all over on Twitch, says, how long does it take to print that? It's a great question. Depends on your printer, obviously. If you have an original Ender 3, expect to wait a while. The full-size versions on an Ender 3, like an Ender 3 V1, can sometimes take a day if you don't adjust any of your settings. If you print these out on an Ender, like if you max out your layer height and you turn it up to like 60 millimeters per second instead of like 35 or whatever the default is, you can squeeze one of these out in about 12 to 18 hours. On a modern printer, it's not even close. I think on my Soval, I can print out one of these in about 2.5 hours, the little mini ones. And I haven't tried the large ones yet. Actually, let me consult Orca Slicer. What does it say for a Soval? It's a good question. Bamboo A1 is going to be about, I think, 3.5, I think it said. 3.5 hours for one of these. Let me double check. I have printer times, at least estimate printer times. Here, according to, 3.5 hours for one of these on a Bamboo A1. Estimate of about 6 hours for one of these on like a slower Bamboo Lab. So not terrible. Not Ender 3 speeds, that's for sure. The newer Ender 3s, like the V3 SE and the V3 KE, print a lot faster. They're about half of the speed of the Bamboo Labs. They usually run about 7 to 14 hours at default settings. And of course, if you push it, you can get more speed out of those too. Absolutely. Let's see. Orca Slicer says, for a ultra compact test bench, gotta find my 3D prints, hang on. I have too many folders. So, ultra compact, let's say the ATX test bench, so this guy, this is the largest one, uses the most material. Says it's going to take... The slicer says it's going to take 2 hours for one of these. I think that's actually 2.5 hours. Let me grab the mini one. So this one, the mini ATX. Slice it. What does it say? Estimates it at 4.5 hours. I'd say at least 5 hours on a modern printer for one of these. So it's not terrible. Modern printers are fantastic. Modern 3D printers are just kind of amazing. And to think, like the Clipper revolution in 3D printers started like, what, 18 months ago? I think? It's wild. It's wild. All right, what else have we got? Toy Dragon says, I can't believe you're not supporting your designs. Yeah, no supports. No supports on any of these. They gotta figure their own thing out. Get out of my house. Get out of my 3D printer, get out of my house. Oh, Joe. And Joe has said that the biggest print, which is the full size, which I don't have here right now, because I don't have one printed out, but the full size version of this takes 6 hours on a Bamboo X1C, which is not bad at all. Not bad. Yeah, exactly. I8386SX says, if you're test benching, you're generally smart enough not to be dumb around motherboards. At least that's the theory. Yep, that's the theory at least. So yeah, but how does one of these work? Especially the ultra compact version is super great. The design for this one is really funny. I was super sick, and the design for this ultra compact version like came to me in a fever dream. I'm like, oh wait, what if I use the power supply as a stressed member? Like I had this design in my head of like printing this little tiny test bench and then like unfolding it to be the correct size. Like that's not going to happen. But I did end up making it, you know, a stressed member on the power supply. Come on, get on there. There we go. So the basic idea, right, is put down your power supply, slap the test bench on top. You've got 2 screws to screw in here on the power supply. And again, they're screwing into the power supply, not the test bench, not the 3D printed plastic. And now it is mounted to the power supply, right? Obviously, there's not the most secure mounting. This is the compact version. But like, you can still pick this up, right? Just kind of support the power supply a little bit, but you pick this up, move it around, it's fine. As far as using it, this one has an AGP slot here, so if you wanted to put a graphics card in it, to have an AGP, I have an AGP graphics card nearby. This is me I'm talking about. Of course, I have an AGP graphics card within reach. So this board has a CPU upgrade slot here, which is the primary slot. So I'll end up using one of these little spacers. Graphics card goes in. You can flip it upright. There's your test bench, right? And it takes up a fairly small amount of room on your desk. The actual the power supply cables for this power supply are awful. The actual amount of desk surface area that this takes up is very small. So you have multiple on a desk, especially handy if you've got cramped space, cramped quarters. But yeah, that's it. That's just how you use it. Not bad at all. Very easy. I'll take this GPU out of here. All right, I haven't taken the safety tabs off this one yet. Gotta be safe. Don't want that AGP card flying out of there. So, again, it's just a matter of... That's gross. Where was this card? This is full of spider webs. That's not cool. I don't like spiders. So this goes over here. Can you see? Yeah, look at that. I can get an angle where you can see it. So you just loosen these, and the board comes off, and that's it. That's how easy to use these are. I really like this design. I think it's really cool. Bonus, doesn't take a lot of material to print, doesn't take a lot of time to print, and if you buy one from Joe, they don't cost a lot, because there's not a lot to them. All right, yeah, that's the test benches. Do we have questions? I have answers if you have questions. Anybody got questions? Oh no! Gutbomb says I dumbed a motherboard on one of these. I pulled the Pico Gus out while the machine was on. Oh no! John says Amber's going to be the reason I fetched my printer from the other side of the country. I'm kind of... I don't want to poo-poo Joe and his service, because he is offering a really excellent service, but like one of the reasons I designed these things is like, this is, portable manufacturing, personal scale manufacturing is kind of amazing. It's one of those technologies that's just like, I don't think people have realized yet just how much of a difference that this can make to your life. If you have a 3D printer, you've got a 3D printer and you've used it to fix something in your house or your car, Having a 3D printer is like, how did I survive without one all these years? Thumbing through catalogs, looking for rare, obscure parts, trying to fix things with duct tape and baling wire. Now I can just print a bespoke custom part to fix things. It's great. i8386SX is step 1, buy a 3D printer. Yeah, I think these things are awesome. And see, there you go. Chris Jackson says, eventually I'll get one. And until then, there's Joe. Go grab one from Joe. Go ahead, hit up Joe at jcm-1.com. He's got all of these models ready to go and ready to ship. He prints them on demand. He's super awesome. And yeah, his prices are pretty reasonable. Pretty reasonable. Nice. Mad Electron says, I've got a Bamboo Lab P1S with 3 AMSs. Can still only design stick figures. It's definitely a learned skill. Definitely. Like all right, I'm gonna show off a little bit here, because I'm just about finished with my first real CAD project. Like I said, these test benches were all done in Tinkercad, but I am designing a little, I say little, a little case project for my Centra 610 to turn it into a Quadra 700, and I'm currently doing test prints to assemble it all. So you got a power button for because it's one of those few Macs with hard power. So power button goes in there, connects with the power supply. Get a slot for the floppy drive, properly sized for floppies. Got the cool pinstripes there for Apple Platinum. Show it on the big camera, maybe then you can actually see it. But yeah, that's my it's the front panel to a complete case that I've designed for my Centra 610. This old motherboard. This is the one that the Big Bad Biologist attempted to fix. He did a really bang-up job on it. Unfortunately, it's got some broken traces in the middle of the board, like inside the PCB, so it's not gonna be doing anything for a while, but I've got a replacement board for it, and this will basically turn it from a pizza box PC, right? If you're familiar with the Centra 610, it's a big flat pizza box that you put a giant hulking monitor on top of, and this is going to turn it into a pretty sleek, small mini tower. And I've designed in a case handle like the old Apple IIc, if you remember those. So it should be fun. I'm doing test prints right now. I've got this is ColorFab RAL 7044. This is like the closest match to Apple Beige from the mid 90s. So I'm gonna do a print in that, but I did some test prints earlier in black, and I gotta say, it looks pretty great in black. If this ends up, if people, and you can see, printed on my Soval, because we've got a little bit of the PEI sheet embedding into the print, which is not great. But if people are interested in this one, I'll probably end up polishing up the model once I print it all out and put it all together. I know that'll probably find its way to Joe's store as well. So there's the back side of it. This is my first project in real CAD. I did this in Onshape, and I've got like fillets and face blends and all kinds of cool stuff that is a real pain in the butt to do in Tinkercad. So expect more interesting stuff from me in the future as I continue to learn CAD. It's been fun. It's been a very fun experience. And Gutbomb says, and dimensions. Yes, it dimensions to correct dimensions. It exists in the real physical world with real dimensions. Very true. I wish I put a web browser window into this OBS, because I want to show you guys what other people have done with these test benches already, because they're wild. Some of the things people have built are wild. Jack68K says, does Tinkercad not do well with dimensions? So one of the nice parts about like Onshape is if you've got two things, right, and they've got corners on them, you can just click on the corner and it'll tell you what the distance is. You don't even have to pull out a measurement tool or anything. It just tells you what the distance is between them. Super easy. In Tinkercad, if you've ever used Tinkercad, you're like, how far away is this object and this object? You have no idea. Your best bet is to take another object, modify your build plane so it's on the face of one of the objects, snap it to the build plane, take your build plane, snap it to the other object, and then pull it all the way out until it's the right size. And it's not great. It's a pain in the butt. That's also true. Gutbomb says the Tinkercad also doesn't have a way to size things based on the size of another thing. It's very true. Extremely true. It's, yeah, Tinkercad is a kind of an art form. To be able to design something like this in Tinkercad, I've realized is not something most people can do. And even then, like, I feel like I'm not very good at Tinkercad when I put something like this together, in that program, which is kind of wild to say. But, Gutbomb asks, have you tried to remake one of these in Onshape yet? I have not. My first test bench in Onshape is going to be the beige G3 test bench that I owe Garth. I promised Garth Beagle that I'd build him a test bench for testing PowerMac G3s, beige PowerMac G3s, because they all use the same motherboard. I promised that to him, like, God, 2 years ago, I think? I'm a very bad friend. I have not delivered it. That's going to be my first test bench build in Onshape. Gutbomb says, ooh, I really want one of those too. Yeah, I think they're going to be pretty popular, at least amongst the retro Apple crowd. Yeah, so Jack 68 cases, I don't know. I couldn't figure out where all the functionality was. In Tinkercad, it's really hidden because it is such a simple interface. And if you haven't used it, Tinkercad is what's called CSG, which is computed solid geometry. Basically, you take an object and then you can add it to another object, or you can subtract it from another object. And basically it'll, like if you take a cylinder, right? You take a cylinder and a square, you can combine them into a single object, or you can take this, turn it into what Tinkercad calls a hole, which is a negative Boolean, and you can subtract it from the circle. And then you have like a Pac-Man shape, which you can then do other things with. So that's what these are built out of. A bunch of weird primitives all bound together and cut out from one another. You can kind of see it, right? Like there's wedges here on the sloped portions that I've cut out of a larger square, right? And these are cylinders with smaller cylinders cut out of the middle of them. That's what this is. It's all Tinkercad primitives, and it's good enough to make a lot of things. Honestly, everything I've built so far, other than my fun little Quadra project, I've done in Tinkercad, and it's been pretty capable for what I've needed. But it is really basic, and once you get into really complicated things, it gets really difficult, because you don't have, like, I needed, so doing these test prints for the Sentra 650 recasing, I needed to make sure that this would fit, right? The power button would fit in this hole. So I did this test print, right? And the first one I printed didn't fit. So what do you do? Obviously you can change the size of your power button, but I needed to change the size of this, right? This was one of the first things that I modeled in Onshape, was this power button. I started from the power supply and I built the power button. And then I knew how far forward the front face would be, and then I started building the front face. So this was one of the first objects that I designed in this project. And if you did that in Tinkercad, you'd be like, oh god, I need to unbind this object like 2,000 times to get back to that original geometry. And in Onshape, you just double click on this sketch that defines this shape, and you just change the dimensions. And then you click the green check mark, and it regenerates everything all the way back from the beginning, which is absolutely mind-blowing coming from Tinkercad. Very cool. Thank you, Gutbomb, for teaching me how to use Onshape. I really appreciate it. And yeah, there's going to be a lot more interesting stuff from this channel in the future. 100% more interesting stuff. Tiny Toy Dragon says, I love having a little fabrication unit in my home. Yeah, it's really nice. I love having a 3D printer. Absolutely love it. Right now, as far as like, what do I get for a 3D printer? I'd say there's two options at the low end if you're just starting out. The Creality Ender 3 V3 SE. It's a long name. It's a very capable printer. It uses a strain gauge for auto leveling, so you don't have to do any like Z offset adjustment. It just goes. It's a Marlin-based printer, so it's not super fast, but it's about twice the speed of the old Ender 3s, and about, I'd say, half to maybe quarter of the speed of the Bamboo Labs, depending on how fast your Bamboo Lab is. It's about half of the speed of like an A1, but also the reason I recommend it if you're getting started is I think Creality's got it on sale for $170 right now. I believe it's $169. Let me double check. I was kind of blown away by the price. Let's see, Ender 3 V3 SE. As usual, there's like 12 different versions of the Ender 3 V3. What do they want for the SE right now? Oh, it's gone up. It's $190 right now, which is still really not bad for what you're getting. It's a direct drive extruder. The part cooling is okay. It's not amazing, but it's fine. It's quiet. So like, if you're not sure it would survive in your house with your significant other, it's one of the quieter printers you can get, which is cool. What else? It's a pretty robust machine, honestly. I think this one is the dual. Is this dual Z? I don't remember if this is dual Z axis. Do they show any pictures of this printer from the backside? Yes. It's dual Z, dual lead screws, but they're connected by a timing belt. That's fine. It's no biggie. Not quite as cool as having 2 independent Z motors, but it's fine. Oh, there you go. Gutbomb says Micro Center has it for $180, so you get $10 off. And pick it up at Micro Center. It's pretty great. Joe stares longingly at his 3D printer farm. There's that, and then because I like tinkering, I actually, so I've got my giant Soval over here. You can't really see it, but it's immense. It's like 350 by 350 millimeter build plate. It's coming with me when I move in a couple of weeks, but it's not going in the apartment right away because it's enormous and really loud, and I don't want to like, I don't want to do that to my partner when I move in with her. So I ended up picking up another Soval, which is the SV07, which is kind of fun. I wasn't going to, and then I saw the price on it. The price is still there. It's $140. $140. It's a similar machine. It's an Ender 3 style. Runs on V-slot rollers, but it runs Clipper, which probably doesn't mean anything to you if you don't know anything about 3D printers, but Clipper is really, really, really tweakable. I love using it. I'm kind of over having a Marlin printer anymore. I really love Clipper. And at $140, it's not problem-free. It is a Soval. It's not super problem-free, but there's some known issues with it that have easy fixes, so I'm going to get that. And that'll be the house 3D printer for a while, until I have a nice, separate, padded, sound-insulated room to put my SV08, because the thing is just so loud, so loud. Anyway, there's a lot of options for good like starter 3D printers these days, and of course there's the Bamboo Labs, but also like FlashForge, their Adventure 5M. Is also pretty inexpensive. It's a Core XY machine. It's got the build plate size of about an Ender 3. Pretty cheap. It's not open source, but it's from what I've seen, it's pretty capable. From folks reviewing it, they keep promising a 4-color printer on the way. I haven't seen it yet. They like showed it off at Formnext, and then no one has it, so I haven't seen any reviews on it. So I don't think it exists yet. But that's a pretty okay printer. That is the FlashForge, Adventure 5M. It's a non-enclosed Core XY. They want $280 for it, which for what it is, for a printer as capable as it is a pretty good price. It's definitely more expensive than an Ender 3 or the SV07. But yeah, it's a nice platform to make stuff with. Yep. There's a lot of good options out there these days, and then of course the Bamboo Lab A1 I think starts at $339 these days, $299 I think. There you go. Rudy's Retro Intel's here. Hello, welcome to the stream, Rudy. Rudy says, not owning a 3D printer. This is all great information. Yeah. And of course, even better information is you can go to jcm-1.com and pick up these models right away. I believe Joe has the store link online right now. So you can go, and if you don't have a 3D printer, you can just pick these things up for currency. You can exchange currency for goods and services. See if there's any more questions in chat here. I'm not seeing anything. Sounds like i8386SX needs to buy a 3D printer. Another one, if you're handy and you're good with if you're handy and you're good with repairing things, used 3D printers on like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, you can get your hands on pretty decent machines. Usually in some state of broken, but they're, from what I've seen, they're usually like pretty easy fixes to get them back up and running again for peanuts. Yeah, you can pick those things up. Sometimes people just give them away for free. I gave away my Ender 3 for free because I was heavily modded. It worked fine, but it was heavily modded. I didn't want to charge anybody for it, you know. So, and I put it out on the curb, and by lunchtime it was gone. So somebody took it. Hopefully somebody's having fun with it. Yeah, there you go. Joe says, yeah, you can regularly find machines others have dialed in for like $40. Yeah, absolutely. Rudy says, I'm looking at getting a 3D printer this year, so the info is timely. Yeah, I would say if you're looking to make a 3D printer an investment, if you're just curious, like one of the low-end machines is fine. Especially if like you're like, what weird stuff can I do with this machine? Something like the Silval would be a good idea, because it's heavily tinkerable, it's open source. It's gonna need some work right away, so you're gonna jump in with both feet. But like even the V3 SE is a pretty good investment, but like it's still got a PTFE lined hot end. I think it's direct drive, but I think the Sprite still has a little bit of PTFE tube in there. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm talking out of my butt. I would go for something that's got, you know, an all metal hot end. That's any motion system these days is fine. The Core XY machines are very nice. They're very fast. But honestly, any motion system these days, especially if it's running Clipper, perfectly fine. They're all good. They are all good. And the i3 style, the Ender 3 style machines that have the moving bed, they're a little bit easier to maintain. You don't have to like reach up inside a thing to tighten belts and stuff. Because maintenance is a thing on these things. i8386SX says, I need to make space for one if I purchase one. That's another thing, is like the Core XY machines are pretty space efficient. The Ender 3 style, the bed slingers, they like to call them, cheap, easy to get your hands on, easy to maintain, but they do take up a fair amount of space. Not just width wise, but then that bed's got to move back and forth, right? So they like double their sitting depth because that bed moves back and forth. Yeah, exactly. Joe says Core XY used to be the bee's knees, but with the new controllers and Clipper, yeah, bed slinger types are just fine. Exactly. Yeah. Anybody has any more questions? I'm happy to answer them for you. This is going to be the last stream for a while. I've got to pack up all the stuff you see behind me, and then move halfway across the country. So it's going to be no streams for a little bit. There is an episode coming out that is a recut of one of the previous streams. I found somebody willing to do it. Actually pretty excited to do it, and she did a really good job. So I'm excited to show that on the channel. If you're a Patreon member, you'll get access to that about a week early. So hey, go sign up on the Patreon. Jax says, where are you moving to? I'm moving to the Pacific Northwest. So heading up that direction. I'm currently down in the desert south in the Sun Belt, and I'll be moving up to the Pacific Northwest. And yeah, I'm honestly I'm looking forward to it, because I'm moving in with one of my partners. It's gonna be a good time. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Joe says, give Amber money. Yes, please give me money. I got my revenue estimate for last month for the YouTube channel, not including the Patreon, but for the YouTube channel at least, a whopping $18.50. So I'm not getting rich quick doing this, that's for sure. Oh, based on the, and like hiring another person to edit, you know, some footage down to an episode. Like, I could maybe afford to do one of those once a year, based on that revenue. Jeez. Ah, maybe one of these days this channel will be popular, but I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna happen. But yeah, go to head on over to JCM. That's Joe's Computer Museum, jcm-1.com, to go grab your test benches and have a gander at all of the accessories. There's quite a lot of them. There's quite a lot of them because like I said, I basically designed the system to solve problems that I've had. So hopefully they solve problems that you have as well. It's a lot of stuff. Nice, not bad. Not bad. Trina says you're popular in our hearts. Thank you, Trina. I appreciate it. Hey, Tom Barber is here. Hello. Basically at the Q&A section of the stream, Tom. If anybody's got questions about the test benches or about 3D printers or 3D printing in general, I'm happy to answer them. And I think we'll probably just wrap it up for the night. I have got some stuff to do. I could plug in my Centris, because I've been working on this recasing project all week, because I want to get it done before I move. So it's done and ready to go. My Centris is right here, all assembled and ready to go. So I can drop it into the case when I'm finished. I can fire that up. We can take a look at some old Mac stuff. Hello, Alberto Martinez is here. Just watched that you were live. I want to tell you good luck with the moving. I'll take a proper look at your new test bench in the morning. Currently 1:26 a.m. in Spain. Well, have a wonderful night's rest, and I hope you enjoy the test benches. And I don't know if Joe ships internationally. Tom Barber asked, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? Is it an African or a European swallow? Joe says, yes, I ship internationally. Well, there you go. I know I've got a few viewers from Euroland over there. So apparently you can, if you don't have a 3D printer, you can pick these up in Europe as well. Tom, did you think I didn't get that reference? Come on. All right. Cool. Good stuff. I'm kind of proud of this one. This was the last accessory that I designed for this system. So this is my most advanced Tinkercad part. You can see I've got all kinds of like cool stuff going on with this. I've got, the light will show it. I've got there's a little lip on here to like strengthen things. Obviously it prints upside down. I've carved away a bunch of the geometry so that when it plugs onto a motherboard, parts of the motherboard actually, or when it plugs onto a test bench, parts of the test bench actually like come through the geometry. I like this one. Got little, you can use the cylinder primitive in Tinkercad to cut away geometry, so you can make these little pockets for screw holes. It's kind of cool. Oh, I have a super chat. Clarjon OnePlus says, I used to crastinate, but I got so good I went pro. I also procrastinate. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's just about it. Yeah, I did the quick demo of how these things work, at least the ultra compact versions. They just slot right onto a power supply, and you just tighten down the power supply screws. That locks the test bench onto the power supply. And you can mount the motherboard using these screws. I have had a couple of people ask, like, "Hey, where's the full ATX version?" And like the thing is, ATX, micro ATX, and mini ITX all share the same 4 base screw holes here. This one here, this one up here, this little guy over here under the RAM slot, and this other one under the RAM slot. Those are shared by any ATX family motherboard, from mini ITX all the way up to like eATX. Like I've got a, try not to wreck everything. Some spare CPUs for this board, but this monstrosity of a motherboard, ha, it's really sharp on the backside. This absolute monstrosity of a motherboard shares those exact same mounting holes right there. And I have indeed put this monstrosity of a motherboard in one of my test benches, in one of the little ones, in fact. So yeah, it's they're all compatible. All the motherboards are compatible. Don't worry about that. I guess I can, you know what? Let's put this one in a test bench. We've got some time. I'll show you how it works. Absolute monstrosity. That is a dual Opteron board. I think it's G34 is the socket. You might be surprised to learn that AMD made LGA processors before socket AM5. So, like I said before, these use the little, I think these are 3/16. These are the like rough thread, you know, power supply standoff screws, right? That's what these test benches use. So let's do the server one, right? We'll do the server ultra compact, because that's what you'd be using this for, right? It'd be a server. I grabbed 4 of these screws out of here. Got a spare one over here. Grab 2 more out of my bag. I'll show you how this works. So, ultra compact test bench goes on the power supply. Where did I put my screwdriver? There's my screwdriver. Find my screwdriver because I have ADHD like crazy. Tighten that onto the power supply. So now we're rigidly mounted onto the power supply. Grab the motherboard. All like 15 pounds of it. And this is gonna plug in here this way. Move this over here so y'all can see it. Get this to focus. Come on. So yeah, just line up the... I should not have printed this in a dark color. Cannot see the screw holes. There it is. So that goes there. Screw this one in. There we go. Whoop. It's a big one. It's a big one. Let me prop this up with something. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's another accessory. This won't prop it up, but This is meant to mount onto the front of board. You can't see any of that. I might have too much stuff, folks. I might have too much stuff. This little guy is designed to mount onto these front sections here. So you can see we've got a plug. Can you see it? We've got a motherboard mounting hole right here. We've got another one down here. These are just patterns from ATX. In this case, EATX. So this would mount on the front and push air across the motherboard. This is a perfect board to use this guy for extracting air out of those heat sinks. You wouldn't want to use this with a 400-watt power supply, mostly because it's not heavy enough to counterbalance it, but also it's just massive. But yeah, we can put in the rest of these screws. Got one up here. Come on, there we go. And I think the only other one it actually connects to is this one here. The other screw would be right here, right underneath the RAM slot. So that's not going to work, but we can put this one in. I wish these screwdrivers were magnetic. That goes in there. Okay, so that is a big old board. So from that point, you've got, obviously you would plug in your motherboard power connector here. This one needs dual EPS 12 volt, obviously it's a gigantic board. Again, you wouldn't use this with a 400-watt power supply, it's just an example. But I've got a couple of prints, a couple of accessories in Joe's store, and they'll be on the Printables page in a minute. But like one of them is a desktop-based 3.5-inch hard drive shelf that goes snugs right in underneath the motherboard, supports it. So if you're building like a home NAS, that's the perfect thing for that. And this one, of course, is the server one, so we can't really tilt it upright, but it would work if this weren't the server version of the print. Works just fine. So many power cables. I love this power supply, but I hate the cables. Ugh. All right, there we go. Yeah, that's the basic idea with these. Mount the ultra compact test bench onto the power supply. Mount the motherboard onto the test bench. You're good to go. And when you're done using that power supply, just unplug all your cables, loosen those two screws. Whole motherboard comes right off with the test bench intact, which is why I made them tiny and easily printable, so you can have a lot of them. And i386SX says, I apologize, I didn't read this right away. I got a super chat from i8386SX who says, knowledge is power. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Tiny Toy Dragon says, beanbags are just boneless sofas. Thanks, I hate it. But yeah, this is definitely one of the boards that's a good candidate for this fan add-on that goes onto the front. You can't even see it, it's so huge. Let's look at the fan add-on real quick, because this is another recent invention that solved a problem that I had. Because I've got, like I said, I've got my NAS down there running in this server test bench. and the chipset on it gets really, really warm. And obviously, it's in an open test bench. There's not a ton of air moving across that chipset, you'd think. So this, I designed, it prints in this orientation. You can see there's the plastic that connects to the fan. This is angled. You can see the stair-step effect from the layers in the 3D print. And then it plugs into those holes on the motherboard I was showing you. So it mounts this direction. I should not have used a fan with so many wires. It's an RGB fan, and it's got RGB wires on it. You can see, like, this wouldn't mount straight onto the motherboard, because of where those holes are. It'll mount this direction, so it'll direct some of that air, you know, to the chipset on the motherboard. It was exactly what I needed. So, yeah, that's another design I'm kind of proud of, because it's again, you print it in one orientation and then you use it in a completely different orientation. It's one of my favorite things about designing for 3D printing is it's such a weird discipline. Hey, Ian Scott is here. Hello, welcome to the stream. We are just about wrapping up. I'm just answering questions if anybody's got any questions about the test benches or about 3D printing in general. Now is the time. Now is the time. And yeah, this is maybe just missed. This is the dual Opteron motherboard that I have. I meant to do a video on this. I actually had a couple of videos I wanted to do on this, and then my original home lab died, and I was going to use this as my home lab. And then this stopped responding to any PCI Express graphics card that I put into it. That's true. That's a really great question, Joe. Joe asks, why do hot dogs come in packs of 8, but hot dog buns come in packs of 10? Or the other way around. If you get the non-bundling hot dogs from Oscar Mayer, it's a 10-pack, and then you get 8 buns. It's very frustrating. The real reason is that you can actually fit 2 hot dogs into a hot dog bun. Careful, the government doesn't want you to know that. Ian says, just want to vouch that all of Amber's test bench designs I've ever printed, and I've printed a lot of them, have been extremely excellent. Ian's great. Ian's a wonderful human being. Do I have my Pico Gus is in a box, but he was kind enough to put me on the back of the Pico Gus for the credits, because he has printed, God, how many have you printed, Ian? Like 20 or 30 of my test benches? Because he does hardware design, right? Like, he does hardware design, so he's doing the moving systems, a bunch of systems onto one power supply, so this is coming super handy for him. Yeah, 20. Yeah. Ian says I printed about 20 of them. Yeah, they're... Like I said, I designed these to solve a problem I was having, and apparently they also solved a problem Ian was having, which is awesome. That's what they're here for. I8386SX says packs of brats come in 5 packs, and of course the brat buns come in 8 packs, or sometimes 6 packs. 5 brats and 6 buns, like that's just wrong. So yeah, I think that's going to be it for now. I will get these models up on Printables. Apologies, I meant to do that before the stream. My life is a complete wreck right now. Breadnomics, yeah, exactly. It's the weird economics of bread. So yeah, I will get these up on Printables, and I think that's going to be it for today's stream. It's going to be a quick one. But yeah, I hope everybody enjoys the 3D prints. So when you go to the Printables page for this, I will update the description. It currently is talking about the mini models, which are these guys. these guys are the mini versions that print on a Prusa Mini or Bamboo A1 Mini. I will have the ultra compact versions, which are the super little guys, on the Printables page in probably just about a half an hour. They're all basically set to just print in the orientation you get them. You don't have to adjust really anything. Plop it onto your slicer window, hit slice, you should be good to go. No need for supports. No need for brim. You might want to use mouse ears if your printer has trouble keeping things attached to the bed. But that's it, really. Default settings, no supports. They should just print. I have tested these with a ton of printers, not just my own, as you've seen. Ian has been a really great beta tester for a lot of these. So that will be up on the Printables page and the Thingiverse in just a little bit. And Joe says, as a stupid person, I can vouch for the default settings being perfect. Thank you, Joe. Oh, thank you. Dave is here from Dave's Vintage Apple Tech. Dave says, have a safe trip, Amber. Thank you so much. It is exciting and terrifying. As you can see, I still have so much behind me to pack up. Oh boy. Hey, there you go. Thank you very much. Clarge11 Plus Tiny Show Dragon has dropped the Printables link in the chat. And that is the page that I'll be updating with the new models just as soon as we stop the stream here. So I want to thank everybody for joining, and thank you for the super chats. Oh my god. I love it. Y'all are awesome. Tom says, I missed it. When's the big move? So I am going dark for the next 3 weeks. And in that 3 weeks is when I'm moving. I'm giving myself a little time to finish packing and then do the move, and then some time to settle into the new place. Obviously, I don't want to say exactly when it is because, you know, doxing myself would be a bad thing, especially given the current climate out there. But yeah, it's over the next 3 weeks, and I'll be back on the airwaves before you know it. There will be a video on the main channel on YouTube. Let me switch to my ACAN. Ta-da! So the YouTube channel will have a fresh video on it in about a week or so. The Patreon gets that video early, so go sign up at the Patreon. Even the $1 tier gets the videos early. I love y'all. I've got a bunch of folks on Patreon, and thank you all for that. I'm still working on a way to thank my patrons in videos and in streams. I've got some ideas. I'm going to try and implement them after the move, because this move has been completely dominating my life right now. Oh no. A super chat from Clarjon1. Did you know that the filming of the Tetris documentary was really difficult? Not because of pressure from the Russian government, but every time an actor finished a line, they disappeared. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. I love it. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Tom says, exciting. Good luck. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. I think that's it. No more, I don't see any more questions. Tom also says it's all the hot dog stuff. It's conspiracy from Big Hot Dog. I think it might be a conspiracy from Big Bread. I think that might be what it is. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a wonderful next few weeks, and I will see you all when I get back on the airwaves, and what's behind me will be completely different. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. There's a couple other things I wanted to release. That's probably just going to go up after I get back, or after I finish the move. Stuff like my universal expansion card slot stands. I think these are going to be pretty useful for folks, but I haven't quite gotten them to the point where I want to release them yet. They're getting there. This is actually an early beta version of the stand. They have a little bit of issue with larger cards because they're just a little bit too precise at the moment. All right. Leave me alone says thanks. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, y'all. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend and a wonderful next few weeks. And yeah, I'll see ya. I'll see you when I see ya. I appreciate it. Thanks, John. John says good luck. Let us know if we can help. Sounds good. All right, y'all. Have a wonderful time. Be kind to each other. And may the PC parts, I got the right hand this time, may the PC parts be ever in your favor. Have a good night.